Welcome once again to the vlog. I am your host. Today, I'll be taking a look at Outriders, an always online action role-playing third-person chess tie wall shooter. The game is rated M for mature, so it's only meant for ages 17 and up. I believe the kids today are calling Outriders and games like it looter shooters. I'll be playing this on my Xbox Series X, but it's also available on the Xbox Series S, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows PC, and Stadia. Wait, is this right? This thing is on Stadia, but it's not on the Apple Macintosh? I didn't realize that Stadia still exists. Moving on, Outriders was developed by People Can Fly, a Polish software company best known for their over-the-top first-person shooter Bulletstorm, and it was published by Square-Enix, who is responsible for games like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. With such a pedigree, Outriders still finds a way to take itself way too seriously. Now, I've never played any of the looter shooters before, so if this is a genre that you'd like, just keep that in mind. Outriders isn't a game that I'm typically interested in, but I decided to give it a try because it launched as part of the Xbox Game Pass subscription service. Before I go on, I think I should mention that Outriders did do something kind of interesting that I wholeheartedly support. They released a very extensive demo that allows anyone to try the game before they buy. All progress from the demo moves forward to the full game, so even if this sounds like a game that you might enjoy, I still think it's worth to try out and download the demo. I respect them for doing it, and it's quite reminiscent of what happened with a little self-published game called Doom back in 1993. You could get the first chapter of the game for free, and if you liked it, you could buy the full version of the game. I really respect People Can Fly for going this route, and I think it's worth at least trying out. While it may not be the game for me, it may be the game for you. If you like the demo, the full game is just that over and over and over and over again. After playing through the entire campaign and some of the side quests, I don't hate Outsiders, but it's very peculiar and somewhat underwhelming. The underlying mechanics of the game are all very solid, and I enjoyed the superpower aspect, but I felt that the game lacked something. It's all just kind of bland and it's very repetitive. To me, it just seems like all of the fun was focus grouped out of the thing. There are some very over-the-top aspects still in the game, like exploding enemies, and the walls sometimes shimmer with blood, but the game has been overly sanitized with a dull filter by the No Fun Police. In Outriders, I've played as Outrider Abigail, who has no relationship to Outrider Amber. Unlike Outrider Amber, Outrider Abigail has no personality whatsoever, and she's a pretty boring character overall. The same thing can be said for pretty much everyone else in the world of Outriders. Everyone is pretty monotone in their delivery, and they're all pretty interchangeable. It's the type of RPG where you can create your own character, but the character creation tool is extremely underwhelming. There's only a handful of options to change the look of the character's face, a few hairstyles, a few eye colors, and that's about it. You can't change the character's height or do any fine-tuning of the character, so no matter what you do to the character that you create, it's all going to look pretty bland as well. The story of Outriders is that the Earth is doomed, so the Earth government send 2 colony ships to repopulate a distant planet called Enoch. The first ship with all the good Outriders explodes, So Earth's only hope is with a group of misfit Outriders to save humanity from extinction. After their 83-year journey across space, they land on Enoch. The new world is promised to be a paradise, but when they get there, it turns out to be a very inhospitable planet, and things go very wrong very fast. The world when you land is very vibrant and colorful. The first character that you meet seems like she could be interesting and has motivation to make this new world work, but after you get hit by a storm and get sent into the freezer for 31 years, you find that the young woman you met has turned into a pirate, and the bright, colorful world from the opening trailer and beginning of the game has all turned to just dull earth tones, and it's all a very bland looking game. The environments do get better later on in the game, but even then they look like they're all covered in fog. The game gives an illusion of an open world, but in reality it's a series of linear corridors. The map is also unbelievably bad, and I just stopped going back and doing the side quests. I don't know how you mess up a map in a game like this, but they did it. The start made it seem like it was going to be a bright and colorful exploration game on this new alien world, and the studios involved are known to make some very over-the-top games that have a great deal of personality. What we're left here is the exact opposite. The basic story is about Outrider Abigail, a 140-year-old woman with superpowers, who goes on a road trip with a band of misfits as they try to reach a radio station. You have that dad guy, his angry daughter, the other girl that loves/hates the daughter, scientist guy, the Jack guy, and the Jack guy's friend. Along the way, you murder pretty much everyone you meet because of reasons, and it's one of those games that makes you wonder how there are any people left since you pretty much just kill everyone. I also don't know where they got all of these bullets because it seems unlikely that they stored that many bullets, and there's no factories that I can see in this world. Are also no farms, so I don't know what it is that they're eating, and the water doesn't exactly look potable. So really, humans should probably be extinct on Enoch by now. The game is a single-player role-playing game with co-op, but for some reason it's always online, which is something that I don't particularly understand in a retail release. There's just no good reason for it to be always online, and its always online nature has caused some major problems during my playthrough. I had the game preloaded on my Xbox Series X and ready to play, but when the time came for it to be unlocked, it didn't work and I just had to wait until the next morning. The servers would randomly crash and you'd lose all progress and have to start your level. This happened to me quite a few times and it was very frustrating. This wouldn't be an issue if the game allowed you to play offline, which would make sense for it to be offline since it's a single player experience. The always online aspect made it for a very slow startup. So, assuming that you could actually get into the server, it took about 2 minutes from the startup to actually get into the game, which is something I haven't experienced yet on the Xbox Series X. With most games, it's just click the game and you're in the game. Quick resume is just never going to work on a game like Outriders, which is a real shame because it's one of the Xbox's best features. So the stories suck, the servers suck, but I said that I don't hate Outriders. So what's good about the game? The combat is actually really good. At its core, it's a third-person shooter with chest-high walls, but what makes it unique is that your Outrider has superpowers. Each class has a different set of superpowers, which could offer quite a bit of replay value. But the story is just so bad that I can't imagine doing it all over again. it was really cool using your superpowers and running around defeating enemies. However, the combat is extremely repetitive and there really isn't any variety at all. The new bad guys that you meet are all the same, except that they have different coats, and the same can be said for the monsters. The boss fights are pretty cool though. The game is heavily focused on murdering enemies and stealing their shoes or whatever, and I just picked whatever had the best stats. They also have a crafting system that I never really bothered with because in RPGs I've been taught to save all your stuff until you really need it. In Outriders, there's always a new hat that you can pick up, so there really isn't much reason to craft something and waste resources. But I ended up beating the game without spending any resources at all, so I don't know. The game has their world tier system that I don't really understand. All enemies scale with you, so if you go back to the first level, the bad guys are as strong as anybody else. I think this is more for co-op to get better hats, so I just didn't mess with it. In conclusion, I don't dislike Outsiders, but it just seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. The core combat of the game is really good, but the game just has little to no personality at all. I'm not sure what happened in development, but to me it seems like they were making a different game, more like an over-the-top B-movie, until some consultant told him that everything has to be overly serious, gritty, and bland. I want to thank you for watching my video. I want to remind you that this is not an endorsement of the aforementioned product, and I got Outsiders as part of my Xbox Game Pass subscription. I also want to remind you not to subscribe to this channel. I'm just a guy learning how to make videos on his Apple Macintosh, and there's no need to press any of those strange and mysterious buttons. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.